Good evening. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Zodiac. I hope you're having a beautiful week. We've had quite an eventful time since our last episode in Bitcoin land and in the markets in general. We did talk about that 51K level and it took that out really quickly. And yeah, so we did also talk about the Japan carry trade in our last episode. So I think we've really covered that. Now, astrology wise, we are just heading into a really tumultuous time. Those moves came quite quickly. I'm not going to lie. I do sort of see some further downside for sure. I definitely don't think we're out of the woods yet. We need to get through some eclipses as well. But we're going to talk more in detail on those as we get a little bit closer to those. And I think what's really interesting to note as well, in the grand scheme of things, when the macro astrology is very, very bearish, when you then overlay that with Bitcoin's natal chart and have a look at some of those aspects, there are some sort of glimmers of positivity within Bitcoin's chart as well. So we're going to dive into some of those today. I by no means think that we are out of the woods and going up to take on all-time highs anytime soon. Absolutely not. But I want to keep it in perspective and give you some sort of real analysis as well, and some of the more nuanced analysis that, yeah, we will dive into that. So firstly, happy full moon in Aquarius. I love some Aquarius energy. It's so beautiful, so powerful. I mean, we are in the age of Aquarius, so this really aligns. But this full moon is really interesting. An intense full moon for sure, but yeah, something very interesting for us and for Bitcoin. A really positive shift and transformation. Like Aquarius energy is very, very transformative. So it's always scary and fabulous at the same time. So really the themes of the full moon, it's always a reflective time, and it's sort of a moment to like nourish creations and also to break through limitations. So it really shines a light and illuminates the work that we've done since the new moon. And it really sort of helps us embody this new version of self, or these new traits that you are wanting to embody, and those sorts of things. So it really encourages us to step into our evolving self while also shining a light on, so that we're able to recognize areas that maybe need some change and some release and some growth. So in regards to manifestation, the process on the new moon is, when we plant those seeds and we set those intentions, and then on the full moon, the part of the manifestation process of the full moon is that we begin to manifest those into the physical because we embody those changes. So we set the intentions, which require a new version of self, requires us to release an old version of self and really transcend that and step into a new version of self. And the full moon is really the time that we step in and embody that new version of self. So we also really want to honor our journey at the culmination of this cycle. And we want to celebrate our progress and identify also what needs to be released so that we can finish the remainder of this cycle really strong and in a powerful way, aligned with the intentions we set in the new moon. So as we know, the zodiac operates in pairs of opposites. So each full moon highlights this dynamic between the opposing energies of the moon and the sun signs. So this interplay really offers us unique lessons and unique perspectives. So, for example, this full moon, we've got the full moon in Aquarius and the sun is in Leo. So we have Leo, which encourages self-expression, self-love, and leading through our own voice and from our heart space. And then we have Aquarius, which really focuses on the collective consciousness and societal evolution and individuality within the collective. So slightly different energies there. And so two ends of the same or similar axis. So together they really help us to understand ourselves and understand our place in the world, and view them from two ends, two different perspectives. So we have with every sign, we have the higher and the lower qualities. So each astrological sign carries both high or evolved qualities and also low and shadow qualities. So the full moon really reveals these aspects and allows us to see the potential for growth and the need for release. So for example, we have with Leo, some of its lower qualities would be seeking validation from others and sort of ego-driven actions. And Aquarius lower vibrations would be more sort of blaming the collective and neglecting personal responsibility. So under the energy of the full moon, we want to look at the aspects of these two signs, because even if these are not our signs, or we don't even have any placements within these signs, we still embody all 12 signs of the zodiac, but just in different degrees and different expressions. So we want to have a look at where these energies exist in our lives. A really good way to do that is to have a look at the placements on your chart and see which house they exist in. You want to be able to have a look at that, and also you want to just recognize the parts of your personality that embody these as well. So you really, of course, want to be nourishing the higher qualities and releasing the lower qualities. So we want to sort of just ask what higher qualities we want to cultivate under this full moon and what lower qualities we're ready to release. So the process of nourishing and releasing can feel really, really intense, but it's really key to aligning with this full moon's transformative power. So it's really a worthwhile practice to sort of look through the aspects of and the qualities of Leo and Aquarius, the higher qualities and the lower qualities, and see which you want to nurture and cultivate and which ones you want to sort of release and ease out of and grow out of. So the higher qualities, the more evolved qualities of Aquarius, we have like progressive thinking. So you embrace new ideas, innovation, forward-thinking approaches. So advocates for social advancements in humanitarian causes, also very independent and independence focused. So really value personal freedom and self-expression, encourage others to think for themselves and break free from societal norms. Very driven by humanitarianism, so driven by a deep sense of social justice and a desire to improve the world. And so very much working for the betterment of society and advocating for the underprivileged. So there's definitely visionary qualities within Aquarius. And so it's like a strong sense of future possibilities and the ability to see beyond the present moment. So inspiring others also with broad, inclusive vision for humanity. So innovation and invention is also very much a part of Aquarius energy. So bringing creative solutions to problems, experimenting with new ideas and technologies, and unconventional methods of doing things. Again, very much community orientated, and focusing on collective well-being, encouraging collaboration and teamwork, and seeing the interconnectedness of all people and striving to build a better world for everyone. And then there's also this element of detachment, which some people may think sounds negative, but it's actually the ability to maintain objectivity and a clear perspective in emotionally charged situations. So provides a calm and rational viewpoint when others are overwhelmed by emotion. And this is actually a very key element to embody in the Aquarian age, in my opinion. It really is a gifting of Aquarius. And it's to be able to hold multiple truths at one time. So two things can be true at once, or multiple things can be true at once, even if they seem contradictory. And it's also in this, I think in the world that we live in at the moment, there's always this push to pick a side. This is good. This is bad. This is, this is the way that you should go. I'm outraged by people who don't think this way. Everything is driving you towards that way of thinking. And really, Aquarius is asking you to take a step back and be the observer and say, well, I understand this perspective, but this I don't agree with. And, instead of choosing a team, a political party, a presidential candidate, whatever it is, a football team, whatever it is that you get behind blindly, it's really being able to be the observer and recognizing and understanding and holding space for the nuances of life and being able to say, well, this is true, but this is also true, and I can hold both of them together. And how can we work from that place of unity and understanding and bridging boundaries and conflict, rather than them against us, this side against this side, either or, good or bad. Nothing is so black and white. And Aquarius really calls us to lean into those nuances and be able to hold space for the nuances. And so the lower or shadow qualities of Aquarius can be tied to the detachment as well, can be aloofness. So it can appear to be emotionally distant or detached, making it difficult for others to connect on a personal level. Aquarians definitely prioritize logic over emotion, leading to lack of empathy, potentially. Also, they have an incredible rebellious nature, which really serves us as the collective, but rebellion for rebellion's sake is also like a shadow side of Aquarian energy. And, it's not productive really. So potential to challenge authority or societal norms without having clear purpose or even a constructive outcome, and can become contrarian or disruptive just simply to be different for the sake of being different. Can be unpredictable, maybe erratic or inconsistent in behavior, causing sort of an instability in relationships or even like working relationships and projects and things like that. Overly idealistic, so can be focused on a utopian vision, that practical and then sort of practical concerns or realities tend to be overlooked in that space. So maybe a little disillusioned when reality doesn't actually line up with their ideals. So need to be on the watch for that. Stubbornness as well can potentially be inflexible in opinions, holding on to ideas even when they're impractical or unrealistic. Slightly eccentric, may lean into being different to the point of alienating others, different for the sake of being different, and can become overly focused on nonconformity, disregarding like values of tradition or societal cohesion, social cohesion. So, and also potentially like a sense of coldness, may be perceived as lacking warmth or compassion, especially when prioritizing logic over feelings. And so in that way, maybe we'll struggle to form deep and emotional connections because of a preference for intellectual engagement over emotional engagement. So by understanding these qualities, like it helps us work with this Aquarian energy in a very balanced way. And because we want to amplify these positive traits within ourselves and within the collective, while also being mindful of the potential shadow aspects that that could be present there as well, and having the courage to release them. Then we have Leo as well, which is where the sun is placed. And that's represented by the lion, is a zodiac sign that's really associated with warmth and creativity and leadership. And like all signs, Leo also has higher evolved qualities and lower shadow qualities, and that reflect also its dynamic nature. So the higher evolved qualities of Leo tend to be generosity. Leo is naturally giving, sharing time, energy, and resources with others. It is very much like exhibits a big-hearted nature, always ready to help and support those in need. Very confident, possesses a lot of a strong sense of self-assurance and personal power. Very comfortable in the spotlight and inspiring others with their presence and charisma. They're creative, have a lot of creative energy, and driven to express themselves through art, performance, and innovation. Encourages others also to embrace their own creativity and self-expression. Leadership qualities, so natural leadership qualities. Leo really takes charge with enthusiasm and authority, and guides others with vision and strength, often inspiring a lot of loyalty and admiration. So very warm and charismatic. So the qualities of Leo really radiates warmth, making others feel welcome and valued. And also Leo energy possesses this magnetic sort of personality that draws people in and makes them feel special. So these are the gifts of Leo. Also, courage is a big part of Leo energy. So boldness and fearlessness. And Leo's really not afraid to take risks or face challenges. Loyalty as well is very important with Leo energy. Deep loyalty to friends and loved ones, and often going to great lengths to protect or support them. And Leo energy also values long-term relationships and stands by those they care about. And then we have the lower or shadow qualities of Leo, which can be arrogance. They can become Leo energy can be overly proud, believing that they're superior to others, and I think this is a big one, seeking constant validation and attention, leading to sort of a sense of entitlement. And that sort of ties in with the first point of believing that they're superior to others. There's a sense of entitlement in this shadow side of Leo, and that you kind of really want to keep in check. And again, that seeking validation and attention is very exhausting for others to be around, to be part of, because it's always like constantly feeding into that need for validation. Also, Leo's shadow energy can be very domineering behavior, becomes overly controlling, insisting things be done their way, and can absolutely struggle to accept others' viewpoints or relinquish control, causing conflicts. Quite happy to cause conflicts also. Again, that need for attention can be overly dramatic or attention seeking, needing to be the center of attention or focus. And that can be a big one as well. So feels very, very threatened or insecure when they are not the center of attention, they're not in the spotlight, and can lead to a lot of jealousy and resentment. So those energies are very uncomfortable for other people to be around and to work with, I guess. And so we want to sort of be releasing those under this full moon for sure. Stubbornness, again, can be very inflexible, refusing to compromise or admit that they're wrong. This is a big one with Shadow Leo energy. It's a huge red flag for me in general, is that, when people cannot admit that they're wrong, it's a huge red flag for me. So definitely one that you want to keep an eye on. and sort of seek your own heart on these things. Like where in my life do I maybe lean into that? Where do I embody that? And seek to make moves to let that go. And then we also, this is probably one of the main one, is egocentricity. And this is the one that I would really ask all of us to lean into this full moon and just really search our own hearts for areas that we might be expressing this, because this egocentricity actually affects all of the others. So even those higher qualities of Leo energy, if they come from a place of ego, the generosity, the kindness, the loyalty, if they come from a place of ego, it sort of taints those qualities as well. So we really want to keep that in check and make sure that we're heart-centric rather than ego-centric, and heart, spirit, soul-centric. So can focus way too much on their own needs. So if that kind of generosity is coming from a place of what do other people think of me? I want to be seen as being generous. That's not really being generous, right? So it's like keeping that in check. It can very quickly flip into that shadow energy. So focusing too much on their own needs, desires, and achievements, and neglecting other people, and also being very self-absorbed, overlooking the contributions and feelings of the people around them. So we want to be conscious of, how our actions impact other people as well, and being focused on that. Also, impatience is another one that we can probably pinpoint at areas of that in our own lives. Very quick to anger or frustration when things don't go their way, and may push other people into doing things their way. Vanity as well is another one that can color the higher qualities of Leo as well. So it can place way too much importance on appearances and external validation all the time. May become overly concerned with how they're perceived by others, leading to a sense of superficiality. And I've definitely witnessed this with Leos operating in that sort of shadow element of vanity, I guess. And it's superficial. It's a lot of fluff and not a lot of substance, And so we want to be making sure that we're leaning into these higher qualities of Leo and releasing these lower qualities so that we can really evolve into this energy, because this new moon is this full moon, sorry, is so transformative. We really want to align to those energies. So by embracing the evolved traits and working to sort of mitigate the shadow qualities, we can embody the best of Leo and Aquarius energy. And that's really our goal under this full moon. Aquarius energy, both for the collective and individuality. So this is sort of where I think Aquarius energy gets a little confused, is that there is a huge focus on the collective, on society, and community, but it really comes from a place of individuality and leaning into your own individuality, what the nuances and the special aspects of yourself, your truer self that you have to give, and bringing that forward to contribute to the community. So that's also really important to keep in mind with this Aquarian energy. It's really about, how can I compare this? I think a really good example is if you think of like JFK, like he really embodied this actual Aquarian energy. He really was all about, his whole narrative was really about empowering the individual to be able to uplift themselves, to contribute to the collective. Whereas his party more in the modern day is more about flattening and creating this sort of like mediocrity across the board, this mediocrity, inequality across the board. And that actually just makes for a very weak, vanilla society. We want to have a society that creates opportunity for the individual to be able to empower themselves, rather than flattening and creating this sort of vanilla mediocrity across the board. I think that's the best way I can describe this energy. So Aquarius energy, it's really connected to the collective consciousness, societal structures, rebellion, and individuality. It balances the need for communal progress with the drive for personal freedom. Really encourages challenging the status quo and envisioning a better future. So really during this full moon, the personal reflection that we can lean into is really a time to examine how society has shaped our own beliefs, either consciously or unconsciously. So how societal norms influence us as individuals and how you can find freedom within the collective. So we want to be shedding beliefs that are not authentic to us. So there's a lot of societal beliefs that we're fed really on a daily basis, and especially when we're growing up, especially in childhood, there's a lot of beliefs that we're fed through society that maybe don't serve us. And so we can really take the time under the power of this full moon to really analyze those and kind of just analyze the voices that they came from and sort of say, well, are those voices even relevant, or are they even valid now? And so you can release any that are no longer resonate with you, that no longer serve you, that aren't authentic to you. So yeah, identifying those and releasing those beliefs that aren't really yours, and spend time to shed outdated beliefs, embracing your truest self to contribute to society in alignment with your highest potential. So embracing change, accepting personal transformation, even if it makes others feel uncomfortable. And that's a really big one, I think, is really having that sort of courage, that Leo courage to really embrace your truer self and express that in the world, knowing that it is meant to serve the collective. We're not all meant to be the same. We're not all here to bring the same qualities to the table. And just having confidence in your own self-expression and letting the chips fall where they land, where they lay, and really leaning into that and not being so concerned if it affects other people. I mean, to be honest, I host a podcast called the Bitcoin Zodiac. I feel like I'm on another planet, most people, most of the time. Just even my beliefs around Bitcoin, my beliefs around spirituality and the world that we live in. There's so many people that I feel like I'm living in a parallel universe. They don't see what I see, and I don't see the world that they see either. So you have to come to a place where you're comfortable in your own authenticity and that you're okay expressing that, even if it makes others uncomfortable. And on the flip side of that, again, talking about those lower qualities of Aquarius, is that you don't want to just be different and be making people uncomfortable just for the sake of it, but also not holding yourself back just because you think other people won't accept you for who you really are. So expressing your truth as well to help evolve society. Like, again, that's leaning into that quality of knowing that what you bring to the table, knowing your voice is valuable, knowing what you have to say, what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, what you're here to express is valuable and is contributing to the evolution of society, and considering how your energy influences the collective consciousness. So some of the key questions you can ask yourself under this full moon are really like, what higher qualities of both Leo and Aquarius do I want to nourish in my life? And what lower qualities am I ready to release from my life? And how have I been influenced by societal conditioning? And what changes are needed to align with my authentic self to contribute positively to the collective? So really, this full moon is all about embracing the energies of Leo and Aquarius to stand in your truth and contribute to the collective good, to use the full moon's power to align with love, with confidence and with integrity while evolving yourself and also society. So what does this full moon have in store for Bitcoin? So I can see a couple of things happening here. Not great macro astro, to be honest, but we've got all-time highs with gold. Gold's peaking all-time highs, which is amazing. What I see for Bitcoin in amongst all of this horrendous macro astro is that I always have a bullish scenario and a bearish scenario. And so for this moment in time, I'm very slightly bullish in the very short term, like the first half of this week after the full moon. And basically the reason I'm saying that is because there are liquidation levels that are higher, that are looking quite interesting, I would say, that are above price. And that's around the 61,500 to about the 63,500 level. And so I would expect that to be taken out either sort of the open of the market. So Sunday night for the US, Monday morning for Asia and for the UK. So I would expect like quite a sharp up movement, take out those levels, and then a movement down to align with the sort of negative macro astro. Or the other scenario, which I personally think is more likely from just looking at the aspects on Bitcoin's natal chart specifically, I actually would expect us to open to the downside and slowly make our way to the downside around that sort of 3-day, 5-day period of the full moon. I think it'll be the 3-day, to be honest, and sort of have a bit of a short-term reversal. So I'm talking about lower time frames. I'm looking probably around the 1 hour, 15-minute time frame, also the 5, but I really would want more confirmation of a short-term reversal, like a weekly swing sort of reversal, looking more on the 1 hour or 15-minute. And so what I expect to see there is that we'll create a higher low at some point, and probably like maybe Monday morning around the full moon, basically, we'll find a local bottom, we'll create a higher low, then we'll create a higher low, and we'll gradually move up. Nothing drastic, no testing all-time highs, nothing exciting, nothing like that. Just simply coming up to these areas to take out some of that upper level liquidity. And then we also have the unemployment claims on Thursday. So I would expect that to be the period that the market sort of reverses slightly, and we start to move back down a little bit, and we have that sort of swing reversal. So I'll show you that, why I'm looking at that through each of the aspects of the astrology, and then I'll sort of give you some long-term bearish targets as well, just in case we do have some crazy events and some craziness happening in the market. I'm going to give you some levels that I'm like looking at for some maybe juicier long entries if you do want to add to those to your positions. So firstly, we have obviously the full moon. And so again, that Aquarius energy and financial astrology associated with innovation, technology, rebellion, collective consciousness. So this really a lot of the things that influence Bitcoin. It's also linked to future-orientated thinking, breaking old paradigms, and social change. So again, very Bitcoin. And in financial astrology, Aquarius is also often influences sectors like technology, Bitcoin, crypto, and industries related to like social networking and information sharing, like news networks and things like that as well. So it's also late degree in Aquarius. So the late degrees of any sign, such as the 27 degrees of Aquarius, carries a mature and intense energy. So it often signals a culmination, completion, or finalization. So in this case of Aquarius, this degree could bring like an intense focus on technological advancements, shifts in collective trends, or sudden unexpected events that affect the global market. So market sentiment, full moons generally signify like culmination points and usually print a local bottom. We haven't been seeing that recently. That's actually flipped for the last couple of cycles. But generally, overall, print a local bottom. But also a time of heightened emotional energy. So in the context of financial markets, it can definitely lead to intense volatility. And traders generally react in an emotional way during the full moon. Our emotions are heightened, and especially for traders that don't observe the moon cycles, their emotions are also heightened, but they don't really know what to do with that or where that's coming from. So I think that gives us a bit of an edge in the market, that we know, okay, ahead of time, full moon is generally like a more intense emotional period. So we need to have a look at that. Definitely increased volatility. And the full moon in Aquarius, there can also be this collective sentiment towards change, innovation, or even rebellion against traditional financial systems. So we love that over here at the Bitcoin Zodiac. So also Aquarius really rules technology and futuristic concepts. So making this full moon particularly relevant for Bitcoin. So the energy of this full moon could drive significant price movements in Bitcoin, especially as it aligns with technological innovation or societal shifts in perception towards digital currencies. So I expect volatility around every full moon. It is generally a little hectic. But yeah, this full moon, I definitely, the culmination at 27 degrees Aquarius can really bring some heightened financial volatility, especially sectors that are ruled by Aquarius. So we could see some quite significant swings, driven both by speculative behavior and technological development. So, as I said, we may open and quickly take out those upper levels of liquidity and then start to move down. But I'm leaning more on the other side of things, to be honest, that we won't open. We'll open towards the downside. We'll find kind of a local bottom around this full moon, and then we'll have a little bit of a move up to take out those, early 60s levels of liquidity. So let's see. Let's see how that goes. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, so it's the planet of sudden change, disruption, and innovation. So Uranus is currently transiting Taurus, and it's associated with finance and material security. So this transit really suggests that the full moon could bring unexpected shifts in Bitcoin's price, lightly reflecting broader changes in investor sentiment or technological developments. So yeah, I think we just need to be wary. I don't think the downside is over entirely, personally. But in this first week, I think the first week of this full moon, I think is reasonably positive. I don't think we're making any drastic moves down. But I think when we look at the macro markets, I think that we're due some other kind of shenanigans similar to, the Japan carry trade, all of that kind of thing, the yen carry trade, all of those sorts of things. That are things like that I, believe are due to break, basically. I don't know how to put it any other way. But also the full moon's opposition to the sun in Leo adds this layer of tension between, individual desires, which is represented by Leo, and then collective goals, which is Aquarius. So the tension could manifest in the market in the struggle between traditional financial systems and the disruptive nature of Bitcoin. So we could expect the possibility of sudden surges or drops in Bitcoin's value around this full moon, and also just a change in sentiment and conversation around the collective implications of Bitcoin. I mean, that's always been what Bitcoin is about. So, is the collective. And there's also this tension between like your own short-term goals of like Bitcoin number go up, please. And also, this collective desire to see Bitcoin really fulfill its purpose and serve the collective in that way. So it's really a balance of those energies. So this full moon really provides a unique opportunity to align your financial strategies with these emerging trends, but also requires like quite careful navigation because it is potentially turbulent. There are some ugly macro aspects in play for sure. So then we lean into the 20th of August. We've got Mercury trine Bitcoin's natal sun. And so this is the day after the full moon. So a trine is a harmonious aspect. So we have Mercury, which governs communication, information, trading, technology, and analytical thinking. And it represents how information is processed and exchanged, making it highly relevant to financial markets where data and news drives market sentiment and decisions. So the trine aspect, as I said, is harmonious and signifies like ease and flow and opportunity. So where planets are in trine, their energies support each other, leading to positive outcomes without much resistance. So the sun is in the natal chart represents the core identity, vitality, and purpose of Bitcoin. So the sun symbolizes its fundamental nature and its transformative and innovative financial assets. These qualities of Bitcoin make it a very unique financial asset. And it really challenges traditional systems and introduces, this decentralization and trustless environment to our financial system, which is so greatly, greatly needed. So this aspect also, when Mercury is trine Bitcoin's natal sun, there's this increase in clear communication and effective dissemination of information related to Bitcoin. So this aspect can bring more transparency and understanding to the market, leading to well-informed trading decisions. So this kind of like symbolizes to me when everything could be going to shit in traditional markets, sometimes that actually makes Bitcoin look better and is like positive for Bitcoin. So this may be one of those moments for Bitcoin and also for gold, I would say too. So yeah, I think that's where I'm sort of seeing that first couple of days of the week maybe being positive and leaning into those levels of liquidity, dipping into those levels of liquidity, sweeping that liquidity. So I also do think that the narrative around Bitcoin is going to be positive under this, talking about Bitcoin's core purpose, Bitcoin's the innovative, rebellious, disruptive nature of Bitcoin and how positive that is for the collective. I think that we're going to see a lot of conversation around that around this full moon and through this aspect the day after as well. So the harmonious nature of this trine suggests a positive flow of energy between Mercury and Bitcoin's core identity. So this could manifest, as I said, in favorable news, announcements, or developments related to Bitcoin, just boosting that market sentiment and investor confidence. And I think we've been seeing a lot of that through, certainly through this year, since the ETFs are launched. It's like instead of even if people aren't necessarily like fully on board and understand the potential of what Bitcoin could do for humanity, they're at least not saying Bitcoin's a scam anymore. So there has been that shift this year. And I expect that trend to just increase, honestly. So given Mercury's association also with technology and trade, this trine could facilitate smooth transactions, increased adoption, and innovative developments within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So expect advancements in blockchain technology, or improve regulatory clarity during this period of time as well. So I expect that to be a bit of a bullish influence. Again, I just want to reiterate, because I will get messages every time, I don't think we are going up in a crazy bullish move to go and test all-time highs. I don't think we're there yet. That's my personal opinion. I'm absolutely open to being wrong, especially in that scenario. I'd love to be wrong. But I think when we do see a bit of bullish movement, you're going to see tons of headlines being like, the worst is behind us. Like, let's start this bull run. Let's go. LFG, you'll be seeing that hashtag a lot. And I just want to keep it in perspective. I'm ready for that. I'm so ready for that. We're all so bored. Like, come on. But I just don't think we're quite there yet. So let's get through this next couple of months. Let's appreciate the time that we're in. I personally think that still accumulating Bitcoin, DCAing into Bitcoin under the all-time highs of the previous cycle is still actually a really worthwhile endeavor. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I share my sort of like bearish scenario as well. But yeah, I think that we can sort of see that as well. And I don't think that it's going to be like these crazy up moves. I think this trine sort of brings a sense of stability and optimism, so reduces the likelihood of major market disruptions. So this can kind of like be a steady price increase over those first couple of days of the week, I think is what we're going to see. And and as I said, a reversal probably around Thursday on that news. But I'll get to that when I get there. So it's not going to be like crazy move up to test these all-time highs. I think it's going to be a pretty steady move to the upside just to take out these areas of liquidity sitting above price. So So next we have the 22nd of August, which is we've got the sun quincunx. So this is when I sort of start to see the shift. And so we have the sun quincunx, Bitcoin's natal Jupiter. As far as macro astrology as well, we also have a very hectic Mars square Venus on the same day. So that's looking pretty ugly, to be honest. And we also have the unemployment claims that day. So so I think that this is where we'll have that liquidity taken out between 61.5 and 63.5, and then this is where we will pivot and get that sort of swing trade to the downside, that weekly swing trade to the downside. So the sun's energy in astrology really represents identity, vitality, and core purpose. So it's the source of life and energy, symbolizing authority, leadership, and central themes. And so then we have Jupiter's energy, which is the planet of expansion and growth and abundance and optimism. And so in financial astrology, Jupiter influences wealth, investments, and speculative opportunities. And when we have a quincunx aspect, the quincunx aspect represents this like tension or adjustment of the need for realignment. So unlike oppositions or squares that create like direct conflict, this is more, the quincunx suggests more of a subtle friction where the two energies just don't naturally harmonize, but aren't like directly in conflict, like aggressively in conflict. So as I said, I'm not seeing like a crazy move to the downside either necessarily, unless something really big in the macro happens that kind of just scares people out of everything. I still don't think that that's off the table over the next few months, by the way. So this aspect often requires making adjustments or compromises. So there's also this element of the tension between growth and stability. So the sun quincunx Bitcoin's natal Jupiter creates a situation where there's a mismatch between this desire for growth, which is represented by Jupiter, and the need for stability and clear identity, which is Bitcoin's sun. So in financial terms, this could be a period of uncertainty or inconsistency in Bitcoin's price. Yeah, we could see that. And a potential sort of for overextension as well. Like Jupiter's expansive nature combined with the sun's energy can lead to this overconfidence. So like I said, as soon as there's a little bit of bullish movement, you're going to see headlines everywhere. Like, this is it. Like, let's go. Don't miss this. Don't have FOMO. All of this bollocks that we always see in the crypto news. And, so you are going to see that. So I think there will be this like overconfidence or overextension, like in the market a little bit. Again, perfectly timed to take out that upper level liquidity. But investors or market participants in any level may be tempted to take more risk, really expecting gains. But the quincunx is sort of giving us a heads up and warning us that this optimism may not be fully supported by the underlying like astrology. Like we're just not there yet. So there's an adjustment period. So it suggests that there may be a need to make adjustments, recalibrating expectations, or reassessing investment strategies. So this could involve a reevaluation of Bitcoin's perceived value or future potential, leading to shifts in market sentiment. So I don't think it's going to be anything as dramatic as that, but I do think that in terms of like this week after the full moon, I think you're going to see that move up, and then you're going to see on the news, we will turn around on that news and see a bit of a retracement. Like, obviously it's not to the minute. You need to be having other technical analysis confirmations before you enter those kind of trades. But I'm just giving you a heads up of like what kind of energy I'm kind of expecting for that week. So yeah, I just recommend that you're a little bit cautious. The quincunx aspect often requires some caution and some careful navigation. So you want to just be wary of overextending yourself based on overly optimistic forecasts. We've already been seeing these like really optimistic forecasts for Bitcoin this cycle. And I'm not saying that none of them have the potential to be true, but I am just wanting to keep us in perspective of where we're at in this moment. And I don't think we're quite there yet. We're not at Bitcoin to $1 million yet. Yeah, so this period just requires careful and measured approach to navigating Bitcoin's investments, your Bitcoin investments, while the potential for growth absolutely exists. You know me on this channel. We're absolutely here for it. But the quincunx just advises us that adjustments and recalibrations are necessary to maintain that balance and avoid unnecessary risk. Also on that day, which is giving me another confirmation for a potential reversal, is that Jupiter is semi-square Bitcoin's natal Mercury. So again, Jupiter's energy, expansion, growth, abundance, optimism. We love some Jupiter. And it governs financial wealth, speculative ventures, and the broader economic outlook as well. So, and then we have Mercury again, which rules communication, information, trading, technology, and just the exchange and flow of ideas. So in financial astrology, it's particularly significant for market trends, data analysis, and decision making. So when Mercury is in retrograde, which it still is until the 28th, it's actually really kind of messes with our technical analysis and also our astrological analysis. Like any kind of like communication where you're interpreting things can be a little skewed during Mercury retrograde. So just be aware of that too. But anyway, with this aspect, it's Bitcoin's natal Mercury and it's semi-squared the transiting Jupiter. And so the semi-square aspect is a minor but yet challenging aspect. So it signifies tension. It's not like a square aspect that is a major challenging aspect. This is a minor challenging aspect. But again, it signifies tension, friction, and the need for adjustment. So it's not as intense as a square, but it still indicates an obstacle or difficulty that requires attention or resolution. So again, same with the quincunx. It's not like this direct opposition or like super crazy bad that like, oh my God, everything's collapsing, run for the hills. It's not like that, but it's also just like it's putting a limit on the bullish sentiment. And as we know as well, the markets don't go up in a straight line. There are fractals of every time frame playing out on every time frame of these up and down movements. And so this, I think, is just like part of the weekly movement that you'll probably see expressed on like the daily chart, the 4 hour, the 1 hour. And you'll see that kind of swing play out and that reversal play out on that time frame, but it probably won't mean much on the weekly or the monthly time frame. So we have these conflicting energies. So the semi-square between Jupiter and Mercury suggests a friction or a little bit of a clash between the expansive growth of Jupiter and the logical communication of Mercury. So there's a bit of a mismatch between the optimism and expectations in the market, which I think will only heat up with a little bit of bullishness, and the data or information driving those expectations, like with Mercury. So yeah, so I think that there is a bit of a risk again, very similar energy to the quincunx, or not similar energy, but similar outcome. Like Jupiter's tendency to amplify may lead to overconfidence and, overextension. So while Mercury's influence on communication may result in this like misinterpretation or exaggeration of market information, and again, remembering Mercury is still in retrograde, so the potential for that, this misinformation or over exaggerated information or confusion is absolutely still present. So this can lead to unrealistic expectations, especially in speculative markets like Bitcoin. So the tension between these energies could kind of create this environment where the market sentiment is overly optimistic without like strong logical backing. So yeah, that's really where we're at. I feel like both of those aspects are sort of giving that impression. So it can result in like a little bit of like a bubble and a correction that people aren't expecting. Like if you're starting off the week strong, then all of the news, everyone on Twitter is going to be like, the bull runs back, let's go, like, really overhyped. And then just part of the regular swing reversal at the news event, is going to catch people off guard because they maybe think it's up only from now on. So it's only short-term instability. Friction between Jupiter and Mercury can lead to short-term instability in Bitcoin's price. There could be some sudden spikes or drops given the market reactions to news or events that aren't fully understood or are blown out of proportion. So again, we have the unemployment claims there as well. And so we have that reality. So we just need a really balanced approach to this aspect. And I think that'll be sort of where we'll see a very short-term, reversal that week. So just make sure that you are staying vigilant, managing your risk effectively. And I think just positioning yourself well for future opportunities coming to the downside. So we'll discuss that next too. So this aspect really reminds us to balance optimism with practicality. There's always going to be room for opportunities for growth. Like we are so long-term bullish Bitcoin, even mid-term bullish Bitcoin. But it is important to remain like kind of vigilant and just avoid the pitfalls of overextension and buying into like this speculative excess, because it just doesn't serve you. It just burns through your capital, and you want to be much more strategic than that, you know? So then coming into the 27th of August, we have Jupiter trine Bitcoin's natal Chiron. So it's a really interesting aspect. Again, Jupiter, expansion, growth, optimism, and abundance. And we have Chiron, which we've spoken about so many times on this podcast because I'm obsessed with Chiron energy. I love it. Known especially for Bitcoin, known as the wounded healer, symbolizes areas of deep-seated wounds, healing, and wisdom to be gained through overcoming challenges. So when related to the financial markets, Chiron represents areas where recovery or healing is necessary, or where past difficulties have shaped current values and strategies. So a trine aspect, as we've discussed earlier in this episode, is harmonious. Like, it promotes ease and flow between those energies of the planets involved. So trines often bring opportunities for positive developments, and with very little resistance, allowing for natural growth and progress and healing. So it's quite a beautiful energy. So the trine between Jupiter and Chiron suggests this kind of period where past wounds or challenges related to Bitcoin can lead to healing and growth. So this aspect may signify a time when issues have previously hindered Bitcoin's progress and are resolved, creating an environment of optimism and expansion. So I kind of see that as more around like long-term bullishness. And I also see that in the context of the traditional markets. I think that as these couple of months go on, we're going to see things in the traditional markets break and continue to break. And just those things, sort of, when those things happen, they just highlight the need for Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is here, why Bitcoin was created, and what Bitcoin is here to heal. And so I think that, you know, over the next couple of months, we are going to see some of those things that really bring a spotlight onto Bitcoin in a very positive way. And so again, midterm bullish. And when I say midterm, I'm talking like this cycle. When I say long term, I'm more talking about like the secular generational multi-cycle. And, you know, obviously short term is really like a week, a month, even a day. So just to give some perspective on the cycles that I'm talking about there. So the harmonious nature of this trine does promote this like positive market sentiment. So investors may feel more confident in Bitcoin's long-term potential, leading to increased interest in Bitcoin as an asset. So there's a sense of healing and overcoming past challenges that can bolster trust in Bitcoin as a viable asset. So if Bitcoin has experienced like some downturns or difficulties, this may indicate a time of a little bit of recovery, or at least a stabilization. So Jupiter's expansive energy supports that growth, while Chiron's influence suggests that the market has learned some valuable lessons from the past and is leading to sort of like a wiser, more stable, healthier market. So this aspect really offers the chance to capitalize on Bitcoin's potential while benefiting from the positive energy and growth and healing. So by approaching this time with a longer term perspective or a midterm perspective, and applying those lessons learned, you can navigate the market effectively and achieve longer lasting gains. So we also have Mercury retrograde ending on the 28th of August, 28th of the month. So stationing direct. So after Mercury goes direct, it will enter then this post shadow period, which will last until September 11th. And during the post-shadow phase, the themes and issues that arose during the retrograde will gradually resolve. So during the post-shadow period, the themes that arose during the retrograde are often resolved, and any lingering effects are cleared up. So it's a time to integrate the lessons learned and finalize any decisions and changes that are made. So as I said previously, I don't think we're quite there yet to be challenging all-time highs. I think we're looking like quite deep into mid-September. And we'll have a closer look at the astrology when we get closer to that time as well. But yeah, so these are the times to be like integrating the lessons learned during that retrograde. And the post shadow period is important for tying up any loose ends. It's a time to reflect on what happened during the retrograde. So between the 4th of August and the 24th of August, like what were the issues that came up, and make any necessary adjustments or finalizations. So focus on resolving any issues that came up during the retrograde. And, it's a time to finalize decisions, move forward with new plans, and solidify any changes made. So if you were sort of waiting to sign contracts or waiting to have an important conversation with someone, now's the time that you can sort of move through that. Also, if you did have any conflict during the retrograde period, now is the time to sort of like repair that and, go back to that and resolve those issues. So we also have Pluto re-entering Capricorn. So Pluto is still in retrograde and it now re-enters Capricorn on the 1st. So basically, Pluto energy is the planet of transformation, power, and deep change. It governs the process of destruction and rebirth, revealing hidden truths and bringing about necessary and sometimes painful transformations. So in financial astrology, Pluto is associated with large-scale economic shifts and restructuring of institutions and changes in wealth distribution. So I think that we are definitely going to see some of this throughout the rest of this year. Capricorn is the sign of structure, authority, governance, and long-term goals. So it rules institutions, governments, corporations, and the frameworks that hold society together. So Capricorn's energy is very disciplined, strategic, and focused on stability and control. So when Pluto is in retrograde, this transformative energy turns inward. So this is a period that involves a review or a revisitation of power dynamics, the dismantling of outdated structures, and the opportunity to address any deep-seated issues that may need to change. So we'll be looking at revisiting structural changes. So as Pluto retrograde re-enters Capricorn, it revisits the themes of authority, governments, and structural change that have been prevalent since Pluto first entered Capricorn in 2008. So this period may bring a final review of economic and institutional reforms, particularly those related to power structures in the financial sector. Expect like a re-examination of regulations. Like I think that that's definitely going to be a topic of conversation, maybe not necessarily around Bitcoin itself, but more likely to be around the rest of crypto. Like what does that look like? What do those regulations look like? So I think that will probably be at the forefront of the conversation. And like it'll sort of be, it's like revisiting those structural changes. So as Pluto retrograde re-enters Capricorn, it revisits the themes of authority, governments, and structural change that have been prevalent since Pluto first entered Capricorn in 2008. Don't need to remind you guys what went on in 2008. So this period may be the final review of the economic and institutional reform. So it really might be the closing of that kind of chapter. And particularly those related to power structures in the financial sector, and expect a re-examination of regulations, corporate policies, and financial systems that have been under transformation for quite a few years now. So I think as well, in terms of regulations, that will come to the forefront of the conversation, not necessarily to do with Bitcoin, but probably to do with the rest of crypto. What do those regulations look like? So yeah, I expect that to be in the rhetoric in the conversation for sure. We'll be looking at potential market instability and corrections. Um, I think this is more in the macro markets, but again, as I've discussed previously, sometimes when scary things happen in the sort of traditional markets, it also scares people short term in Bitcoin. But then usually they're more long to medium term bullish for Bitcoin, because these sort of things that are scary in the traditional markets just build a greater case for Bitcoin. So, yeah, this is what I love about astrology. It just gives us the heads up that these things are kind of like could potentially be happening. And so that we can kind of walk through these with ease and grace rather than being terrified and like drawn back and forth by every news headline. We kind of have an inside information of like what's going on. So the re-entry of Pluto into Capricorn during this retrograde phase really emphasizes the need for consolidation and restructuring. So this period could be a pullback from risky ventures as the market focuses on long-term stability and sustainability. And so investors might seek to solidify their positions, favoring conservative investments over speculative opportunities. So those people that are really hanging out for alt season, I don't see it. I don't see it yet for sure. But also some people consider Bitcoin to be a very, very risky investment as well. So, yeah, let's see. When we talk about consolidation, I can see further consolidation in the US banking system. I think also, some issues in the European banking system as well. So those sorts of things, I would expect to see that sort of during, those sorts of things come to the surface during that period. Bitcoin is a disruptor. It's often viewed as a disruptive force in the financial world, and so could be particularly affected by Pluto retrograde and re-entry back into Capricorn. Because it's almost like when Pluto is moving into Aquarius, like that's where, that's the future. That's where Bitcoin is the future. That's where Bitcoin belongs. And when Pluto moves back into Capricorn, it's like back into 2008 territory almost. I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's when Bitcoin was a baby, when Bitcoin is the early adopter, early disruptor, not the sort of foundational asset and the very aligned asset aligned to the astrology of the times when Pluto is in Aquarius. So yeah, it's much more at home with Pluto and Aquarius. Let's put it that way. There is the potential for correction. So if Bitcoin's price has really been driven by speculative excess, Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn may trigger a correction as well. So this could be a time when the market reevaluates Bitcoin's true value, particularly in the context of the broader economic changes and regulatory environments. Like, as I said, I think that the fundamentals of Bitcoin make that like long to midterm bullish for Bitcoin. But in the short term, people who are just there to maybe trade Bitcoin or just treat it like any other asset and don't really see it for what it fully is, may see it as too risky or something that they don't want to hold. Maybe they want to hold Nvidia or Tesla instead, or even more conservative, maybe people want to hold gold instead. So it's that kind of energy. Yeah, it's not the same like transformative, open-minded, futuristic energy of Pluto and Aquarius for sure. It's more like looking at the old structures. But I think it also could create an opportunity. I think as I said in the previous episode, these next couple of months really are probably going to be your last opportunity to buy Bitcoin below the highs of the previous cycle. So I would look at that in two ways, I look at it in two ways, is that I have like strategic levels that I look at based on my TA and also like liquidation levels, also open orders in the market. And I look at correlation between them. for where I want to place limit orders for more substantial orders, basically, to be filled. But then I also, each week, I also continue to DCA into Bitcoin. Each Friday, I just set a DCA bot. And, because really, realistically, my attitude and my goal is to have more Bitcoin at the end of each month than I started the month with. So that can be through hitting my like bigger, lower levels and filling those limit orders, or I'm still, even if those don't get hit, then I'm still accumulating Bitcoin. So obviously that will change when we reclaim those all-time highs and we go into price discovery. But we're not there yet. And so I would continue to accumulate. And, obviously you need to build a strategy around your needs, around your circumstances, and around your lifestyle. And yeah, so I would encourage you to look at it in both ways. Like a lot of people really miss out on Bitcoin because they're holding out for these lower levels, whereas you should at least be DCAing a little bit in each week, or each month, like whatever you want to do. And so that you're at least still building your Bitcoin stack as well. Retrograde and re-entry into Capricorn marks a significant period of reassessment and restructuring within the global financial markets, not just Bitcoin. So this transit revisits themes of authority, not astrology, and governance and long-term stability. So this could lead to market corrections and increased regulatory scrutiny, particularly in relation to newer disruptive assets like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So as I said, I think it's going to be a time when regulation is back on the agenda for conversation. But I also think that that there's going to be a lot of talk about our current traditional financial systems, stability and security, and viability, long-term viability. I definitely think that's on the cards as well. So really just during this time, as I've kind of stated in the last episodes as well, I'm sure you're all getting really bored of me saying it. We're all getting really bored in the markets. And I think that's by design as well. Like if they can't scare you out of the markets, they're going to bore you out of the markets. Um, but you should just really come at the markets these next couple of months with a very cautious, conservative approach, and really, again, focusing on long-term stability, monitoring regulatory developments. As I say, I think it's not necessarily regulatory developments around Bitcoin per se. I think that will be more of a conversation around the rest of crypto. But still, it also affects Bitcoin's price in a way sometimes, because a lot of people do not understand the difference between Bitcoin and the rest of crypto, and they kind of conflate the two together. So just being prepared for any market corrections, being set up for any market corrections, and having key strategies, like I said, DCAing in and waiting for those key levels. Like, for example, the lower levels that I'm looking at now are between 46 and 47. Like those are what I've marked up now. I'll set some limit orders for entries there as well. And I'll look for it to take out those levels. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to get down there this week. In fact, I don't think it will get down there this week. But that's sort of those levels that I'm looking at that I feel are worth waiting for if we get there. But then also having strategy as well, where you are DCAing in each day, week, month, whatever you want to do, whatever suits your lifestyle, so that you're not missing out on those opportunities. And because the thing that will happen at some point in Bitcoin, and this is something that I kind of really love about astrology, is if astrology teaches us anything, it teaches us that nothing lasts forever, whether it's good, whether it's uncomfortable, it's bad. It doesn't last forever. This too shall pass. So this boring time of accumulation in the market, it will pass. And at some point we need to be prepared that the reality is that we could be looking at the markets like we are today and going, okay, well, it's just boring and it's just chopping around and it's really frustrating and annoying. And then the next day we wake up to an insane God candle and we're off to the races and we're all like, oh, I didn't see that coming. I mean, we do see it coming because we've got the astrology, but, um, it still takes us by surprise. Like it still is like, no matter how prepared you are, you're always like, should have bought a little bit more. So at least have your bases covered in that respect. So yeah, that's my bearish case scenario is I'm looking at 46, 47. I'm not saying I wouldn't expect it to stay there very long. I would expect that to be really bought up very quickly. Quite interesting as well is like BlackRock are not selling any of these dips. So they're accumulating. And I think what's interesting and why this feels so long and so frustrating for retail traders like us is because we've been accumulating all through 2023. Like that was our accumulation time. And whereas with the institutional investment come into the market, at least the customer facing institutions or the customers of like BlackRock and all of these entities, Fidelity and all of these ETFs, they only began accumulating when those ETFs were approved. We saw it as retail traders. We saw it as the catalyst for the bull market. And it was that. I mean, we moved from 30 to 60 in like no time, basically. And up to 70, sorry, in record time. And so it was a catalyst for that upward movement. But realistically, the clients of the BlackRock ETF just started their accumulation. So we're in this like broader accumulation phase. And so just make the most of it for yourself and be grateful that you still have the opportunity to buy Bitcoin under the highs of the previous cycle, because that is not going to last forever. So take advantage of it while it's there. Have strategies for, larger amounts that you're going to set some limit orders at. Have a strategy of an amount that you set aside every week or month to make sure you're still DCAing in and participating in that as well. So yeah, really as well with this Pluto moving back into Capricorn, you really want to prioritize investments that align with long-term structural changes and avoid overextending yourself into really speculative assets. So the bulk of your portfolio really should always be Bitcoin because in my opinion, Bitcoin is the true innovation, and it is what is going to bring complete structural change eventually to the way that we do money. So it is really important, and also it's just much more certain than some of these other more speculative assets. So yeah, I would just keep an eye on that. Stay really informed of what's going on, but don't let your emotions buy into the news too much. And especially if you have people on Twitter and YouTube just shouting, oh my God, we're going to zero, or oh my God, we're going to the moon. Like none of those things are true just yet. So we just want to operate from a space of calm, centered, accountability, calculated. Like we're doing this very elegantly. Like we don't buy into the bullshit here. We are really here to be calm, to do really solid technical analysis for ourselves, and then overlay the astrology to like kind of see the correlations on top of our technical analysis and see where those shifts would come as well. So we want to do that really elegantly, gracefully. We're not here to be like frothing at the mouth and freaking out and being in FOMO, being in fear every 5 seconds. That's just not how we do over here. So I hope you found this information useful and enjoyable. Also, as per usual, this is not financial advice. I'm just calling it how I see it. I'm always open to being wrong occasionally. And, don't shoot the messenger. I hope you found it interesting. Hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me a message. And until the new moon, peace. Peace, love, and Bitcoin.